What's up, dudes? This is Jesus Loving Buddy. In this video, I'm gonna try to give proof for God, and in my argument, I'm gonna talk about things like universal law, um, absolutes, the meaning of life, and stuff like that. Okay. Argument number one. Universal law. I would argue that there is a universal or a moral law inside all of us, and this can be discovered by just kind of looking at yourself and knowing that there is a difference between right and wrong. We all have that sense of right and wrong. And I would say that sometimes that gets perverted by what we really, really want and things like that. And that kind of just goes out the window sometimes. But I would say that we all know the difference between right and wrong. And if you say differently, I would argue that how do you feel when somebody, I don't know, wrongs you in some way? They step on your foot, they take your seat on the bus, they steal your money, punch you in the face, whatever. You're obviously angry, right? And you're angry at them because they have wronged you and because you hold them to a standard. And some people would say, well, it's just I would prefer to be treated better. Like, better according to what standard, is what I would argue. So I argue that there is a standard that we hold people to, and that was given to us by God. Otherwise, how could we all have the same standard? We couldn't really. And I would say that because a creator established this standard for us to follow, that we are accountable to follow that standard. And obviously, we can't. We don't have the ability to follow that standard all the time. We can't. We're not perfect. We make mistakes. So in that case, we would need the forgiveness of the Creator, and that I believe is what Christianity offers, because we continually punch God in the face, and He forgives us, and it's called grace, baby, amazing grace. And I would also argue that there are absolutes in this world. Some people say there are no absolutes, nothing is absolutely sure, and you can never know that. And I would argue, are you sure about that? See, we can find an absolute. I would argue that we can find an absolute in just about anything. I mean, you can look at it in a way that there is no absolute, but then you have to think, am I absolutely sure about that? So if you go back far enough, you find an absolute in everything. I mean, some people would say that reality is just an illusion, that we're all just here. And you could even go as far as to say, like, well, maybe I'm I'm imagining that this is all just an illusion. So, that could go back as far and far and far. It could get ridiculous. And that kind of relates to Confucius. I believe he was like a Chinese philosopher. I'm not sure about that. But he had a dream that he was a butterfly. And then when he woke up, he didn't know if he was a butterfly dreaming he was a person, or if he was a person dreaming he was a butterfly. He was confused on what reality was. And I would say that we can discover what reality is because of these absolutes. Like if we stop and think and we're like, man, I just don't know what reality is. And you kind of sit there in like this stupid confusion. But eventually, you just go on with your life and you forget about that. For example, I may say, wow, is this Shrek trilogy, is these DVDs, is this real? I don't know if this is real. I could never know that it's real. But eventually, you're going to snap out of it and you're just going to like pick it up and take them out and watch the DVDs, and it's just, you go on with your life. So because that we naturally do that, I would say that there are absolutes and that this is a reality. Like reality is not an illusion. And something that also kind of goes along with that, I would argue that this life has meaning. That we're not all just like random chance and stuff like that. This life has meaning. And I would argue that by saying because we ask the question, does life has meaning, that means that this life does have meaning, if that makes sense. And my analogy for this is, if we lived in this world, and obviously this world is full of light, and we can all see. But if we lived in this same world but we were all blind, would we ever ask if there was light? No, we wouldn't, because we couldn't be able to perceive that. So going along with that, I would say that because we ask if there a meaning of life, there is a meaning of life, because we can discover that. So I encourage you dudes to think about these things and post me like a video response or some comments or whatever, because I think if you really start to think about these things, you'll really just kind of find yourself going, ah, yeah, there is a God, holy cow. But that's my argument. So yeah, dudes, check it out. Jesus loves you and I love you too.